Guys, today I want to share with you an interview, or not an interview, but a Q&A session that we had today with a fellow producer, a colleague, a friend of mine. His name is Josh Doyle. He's somebody I really respect musically. He is very musically savvy. He's very, very smart. He's very humble. He's way too humble for his skill level, but he's very, very cool guy. And he also is an amazing businessman, and he's figured out how to make a living writing and producing music for the sync licensing world. And today I'm going to talk to him, and we're going to grill him with questions on how he does it, what he does. And this is through a platform called Zoom. It's kind of a webinar type platform. So the audio is not the greatest. I apologize for that. However, the content is fantastic, and I highly recommend you listen through this and take some notes. If you want, check out his website at 3theorymusic.com. I have the link in the show notes below. Without further ado, here is our call for today. Can you give us a quick background on who you are, how you got into music, and your favorite instrument?
Nice. So how I got into music. My dad's a musician. I played just around. I moved out to LA to be a touring drummer and a session drummer, and did that for a little while. But I've always been a songwriter, and I got into recording early on too. Just I don't even know why, but really what got me here is as I was writing my first songs, I started going in to record them in other people's studios, and I just realized like how uncomfortable and just limiting that is, because you're always like, unless you're really wealthy, like you're always looking at the clock, like how much is this idea that I want to experiment with going to cost me? And then even if you get that, when you get home, you're like, this thing didn't really turn out as cool as I thought, and the mix isn't where I want. Like, and then just to go make small little changes costs you more money. And that's really what got me into recording. I was like, man, I just want to like lower this tambourine a little bit. I can figure out how to do that, And then it was just like, from there, I just like started with just the wanting to lower a tambourine. And then here I am with like, building a studio and producing songs and stuff like that. So I think that's like the really like nutshell version of how I got here.
That's awesome, man. So what were your instruments that you played? Do you have any professional schooling in anything?
Yeah, drums are my main instrument, and I went to the it's the name changed now. It's Los Angeles Music Academy. It's something else now. Los Angeles College of Music now. But yeah, that's where I went. Yeah.
And you studied an instrument or composition, or how does that work?
Yeah, I went for drums, but you can also like I went for like drum set performance, and but there was also like recording classes that you could take, and like part of it was that you had to take like a year of piano and like music theory and stuff like that. So that definitely helped. I really miss that. I wish I had that still going to kind of keep my ear training going and stuff like that. Yeah.
Nice. So how did you get into the actual writing? And can you tell us a little bit about your artistry?
The songwriting came from being just a band early on, from that. And then, I don't know, artistry is like like being an artist or anything. Like I'm slowly starting to maybe warm up to that idea, but I like so many different styles of music that I feel like I wouldn't like me as an artist. Like if it was just like Josh Doyle, the artist, and then I had to listen to all the music that I release, that I record, like I would just be like so frustrated with me. Just because I'll do like swagger rock one day, and then I'll do like something poppy and folky and something with the ukulele the next day. And I'm always like working on different stuff, but that's what I like. I like those challenges, and I like the the variety of that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Now, so I'm asking questions that I already know the answer to, but I'm just kind of spurring you on, if that's okay.
Sure, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about Three Theory Music?
Yeah, so Three Theory Music came from when I moved out to LA. I was drumming for a lot of artists and, you know, touring with them and stuff. And I slowly started co-writing with some of them. And I just noticed that like a lot of the songs would not end up on the album, which is completely normal. Or like I was in a band and we'd like were together for a year before we broke up, and like that entire year's worth of songs that we wrote as a band, like as soon as the band breaks up, like those songs just kind of vanish, like nothing's happening with them. I was like, man, that's like a really wasted year, you know, like as far as like just if you're just going to think of it from like a business standpoint, like you spend a year creating a product or something, and at the end of that year, like just because the team breaks up, that product just dissolves, you know, like that's not how it works in business. Like somebody like, you know, if like the people invented Pepsi broke up, they don't just like stop making Pepsi, it keeps going, you know? So I was like, that's what got me into sync licensing, was like, how can these songs live on even after the people who make them go away? And so as I was getting to the Three Theory thing, as I was doing this, as I was writing these different songs, I noticed that as I was pitching them, the music supervisors were not really getting. I wasn't coming across as authentic when I would say, "Oh, I wrote this like country song, and I also wrote this like, you know, this folk pop song," and they were like, "You know, who are you? I don't really believe any of this." So I started making bands, like artist profiles for each of these styles of music. And it started just as that, like Three Theory Music was going to be the record label for all of these kind of fake artists. But then it like started like growing into something real. Like now I've really got like real artists on Three Theory Music, and a lot of them I co-write with and produce with. Yeah, so it kind of grew into something.
It's like it's sort of a home for all these different styles of music and songs, right?
Exactly, yeah. And it's definitely helped. I feel like if you go to threetheorymusic.com, you can see like it looks like a real record label. And I'm releasing I guess I really should like stop saying like it looks like, because I am like releasing the music just like a record label would. I'm keeping track of accounting and issuing 1099s at the end of the year. Like it's pretty much it's a record label.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Sim says that that's what he's planning to do too.
Oh, nice. Oh yeah, I should look at these. Yeah.
Sure. Sim, you can jump in and unmute yourself if you want to say something.
Yeah, I said what I wanted to say.
Okay.
but how did you get to use real musicians instead of fake artists?
So
how did you find them?
So, I think so. All right, that's an interesting question, because I learned the hard way not to write with artists who can't separate themselves from being an artist. Like there was a lot of failures, a lot of like frustration when I try to write with an artist, like somebody who's, you know, real, and they only want to write stuff that they themselves would want to perform, when, like, kind of as Kathy has said in the past, like that those are sometimes two different things. Like people don't want to license every artist song. So what I've done is I've tried to find those rare people who understand what it is to write something outside of themselves and write for like a brief and things like that. So, yeah, I think of it as like, you know, when you're an artist, there's a lot of downtime when you're not like just writing for yourself, but that there's still a lot of leftover creative energy. Especially like, you know, if they've just recorded their own album, they don't want to just like jump right back into the studio. They're like spending months like promoting that album, but there's still creative energy there. So I kind of use that time to bring them in, and we'll write for licensing stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about what you feel like you're good at as a musician and producer, and what you feel like you're not good at that you don't even go there.
I think that's a really interesting question. That's actually kind of like, you know how like every once in a while you go through these like phases of like self-discovery and like asking yourself those questions, you know, like that. You kind of hit the nail on the head for me. That's where I'm at right now. And I feel like, I mean, to just like answer the question, I feel like I'm good at music that has a organic foundation to it. Like, because I grew up playing in bands, like where there was like, you know, a real drummer and real bass and guitar and vocals, not a lot of like produced, like, you know, Katy Perry sounds like, so I do well that where there's at least elements of like real instruments being played. But yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that, about like there's so many styles of music out there. And I feel like one of the big things that has helped me is really owning what I'm good at and what I'm not really interested in. Like when dubstep kind of blew up a few years ago, right? Or whenever it was like the hot thing, like even in sync, like every commercial was using elements of it. And I really, even to this day, I don't know how to get a lot of those sounds. Like there's just, those guys are like audio artists. But I never really had an interest in it, and I wasn't going to like fake it just because that was the trend. I just kept on doing what I do well, and you know, and it cycles back around, and I still got licenses during that time. Not everything was dubstep. But yeah, I feel like one thing I've kind of been thinking a lot about is the idea of having strong opinions and being passionate about what you're interested in. I think there's something to be said about having strong opinions of what you like and don't like. Because whenever you hear of these big creative artists, geniuses out there, when you hear them like being interviewed, like they have strong opinions. Like I think Quincy Jones just had an interview where he like said that the Beatles sucked or something like that. Not that I agree with him, but like that's an example. Like whatever his reasoning was, like he's got strong opinions about why he doesn't like them. And you never just hear like any successful person just being like, well, I don't know, we just tried some things and whatever worked. Like, no, they have like a very specific opinion about what that thing should have sounded like and when it got off track. And I think that's like a big thing. Yeah, whenever I run into like a creative rut on something I'm working on, I just think about like, all right, what is the vision? What is my opinion of this? Like, cut the fat, like what, you know, I don't know. I just try to like focus myself a little bit. Does that answer your question? That was just like thoughts that have been running in my brain for a while.
Yeah, no, totally. You know, I just remember the dubstep craze also, and I got hit up a lot by different producers. Hey, I need some help writing some, you know, because I was doing a lot of EDM stuff.
Oh, awesome.
And but I learned a lot through that phase, but I was always behind the curve. It was moving so fast. And there's the people that were ahead of the curve were the ones that were super passionate about it. And then there was me trying to catch up and just, you know, make a buck with it. And it just, it didn't work.
Yeah.
I relate to that.
Yeah. And that's not easy to do, because like you see like something blowing up like that, and you want to be a part of that giant thing. So it takes some restraint to just be like, hey, that's not my thing right now, but that's okay. It's hard to do that.
Absolutely. Can you tell us a little bit about I know you've had a lot of sync placements. Can you tell us about some of the ones that you're the most proud of, or the ones that meant the most to you?
Sure. So one of my big goals for last year was to get a national ad, and I was able to do that. I got an AT&T national ad, and then
Awesome.
yeah, that was a nice one. And then there was one that was unexpected. I didn't realize that it was like a thing, but I got a Showtime like promo trailer for a show called I'm Dying Up Here season 2, and that actually ended up being like just as much money as the AT&T placement, which again, I didn't really know that was a thing. Yeah. And then in the past, I've gotten a lot of, I've had stuff like for a Toyota ad and Verizon and stuff like that, and like some film and TV shows and stuff like that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Hi, Josh. I'm Jeb. I'm calling from Brooklyn.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
Hey, good, man. Nice to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being a part of this. So just going back to what you said about your stylistic diversity, I totally see myself in the same boat, and I have just so many different songs that I see potential in. But you're right. I think I've encountered it being kind of a liability when it comes to getting the ear of music supervisors.
Yeah.
When you made these entities, how important is it that you flesh them out as acts? I mean, to what length did you go?
I mean, some of them like several of them, I've got Facebook pages, Twitter accounts, a couple have Instagram accounts. I've like made them so when they look up their social their social history, it shows they've got a past. And then on those accounts, like when one of the acts like gets a placement, I'll like go on their Facebook and their Instagram feeds, and I'll be like, hey, listen for the Upsided on this new AT&T spot. So like they're not just sitting empty. I'm not great, like I'm not on there posting every day like some artists
Sure.
But every month or 6 weeks or something like that, I'll post and put something. Yeah. And then the other thing that I think helps a little bit is grouping songs into like EPs or albums.
Mm-hmm.
That helps make it I found that helps make it seem a little bit more authentic, as opposed to just like sending like one, jazz instrumental and then a rock song or something like that, and being like, here's two things. Be like, here, one of my artists, we've got like this new jazz album that we're releasing and we're pushing right now. Like they seem to, especially like sometimes I'll actually like present myself as detached from the work, and I'll present myself as like the label exec or something. Like I don't say that, but like I'll word it in a way like, hey, we're pushing this new jazz album. They don't need to know that like I co-wrote on it or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
It just helps, like, I feel like sometimes because I feel like they get a lot of artists like being like, hey, I wrote this song down in my basement and I really think it could do well on this new NBC show. And I think like that comes across differently than somebody being like, hey, I'm Josh at 3 Theory Music. We're releasing this new swagger rock album. This band, had a song on a Verizon ad last year, and we're really proud of it. Just like how you present yourself, I feel like has made a difference.
Did I hear you correctly that you said that Three Theory began as a place to house all of those different acts?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when someone went to that website, were you presenting yourself as a label?
Yeah. So it was, if you go to the website, under the About Me, I think I have like something like Three Theory Music is a record label. What do I say? Like record label and songwriter producer co-op or something like that. Something where I say like it's like a family of we've got a roster of producer and a roster of songwriters. More elegant than what I'm saying right now, but
cool.
Yeah. It's presented like that, which the other reason that I started Three Theory is that I wanted to be able to, these were all like trial by error kind of thing. So I would create like a rock band called Disable Danger, right? Mm-hmm. And that band would get a placement on a Verizon spot. And then I would have this other thing that I was like excited about, and they wouldn't have anything yet, right? And I wanted to be able to be like, look, we just got like, instead of it being like just two different bands, unrelated, I wanted to be able to be like, we are having success here. These are talented people that happen to be working on both bands. I can't just say like, band B knows these guys in band A who got a placement, like that doesn't work. So I put them under like a label and be like, hey, here at Three Theory Music, we've got bands who have had spots on Verizon, AT&T. Like we know how to write great songs. We're talented. We have successes. Pay attention to us, kind of thing. That's
great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it. Anybody have any questions before I ask another question? Sim.
Why? You seem really careful to call it a real label, but to me it sounds like a label. You have artists, and you present yourself as one thing to other people.
Yes.
So why isn't it a label?
It is. It's kind of like I don't know. Like I'm trying to think of an analogy. Like it was a lie that turned into the truth, and so like it wasn't a label at the very beginning. Like it was like 3 fake bands that I just created names for, that I was the same person in all 3 bands, and I was basically lying, saying that like any of it was real. And if they looked at the songwriting credits for all 3 bands, they would see my name on every single one. And so
that's what real labels also do.
Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, like Rick Rubin, he started.
Oh, no, he's different.
Like, he was a producer who started his own label, and I don't think he had like songwriting credit on anything. So basically what you're hearing from me is like just slow acceptance that it's become something real. So I don't mean to like sound like it really is, like it has become something real, but like just like talking to you guys, like I don't have to like put on anything. I'm not trying to sell you guys anything. So it just, every once in a while, just like kind of, I bounce between like, is this real or is this fake? But it has become something real.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I think you should be proud of it.
Oh, I am.
And not,
I should be more confident, and
yeah.
But I also don't want to forget that it was a lie one time.
We won't tell anybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, talk to us.
That's fine. Okay.
Hold on, Sim.
I should have.
Talk to us a little bit about the instruments that your kind of go-to instruments for writing and recording. That you.
Yeah, so I play guitar, not well. I mean, but that's what I tend to write on. That's what I reach for. But I tend to always think in terms of drums and percussion. I think about like what is the pulse going to be for this. Yeah. And so I feel like that gives me a little bit like going back a minute about like what strengths are. Like I'm not a great singer. I'm not really great with melody, but I have a good ear knowing like what is hooky, like what's catchy. And so I think that like there are so many people who are more talented than me in those areas. And I think it could be really easy for me to just be like, oh, I'm not a great singer. I'm not really great with coming up with great melodies. I shouldn't be doing this. But what I did was just like double down on the things that I think that I am better than other people at, or at least could compete at a high level.
Which would be what?
Like creating tracks from like a percussive foundation. Like you'll hear, if you listen to my songs, like especially the band the Upsided, it's just like percussion. Like I think there's one song that doesn't even have any bass in it. It's just like just percussion and like just I just went like crazy down that road. And I don't think that there's many people that can do that. Because it's really easy to like just layer on a bunch of percussion ideas and it just sounds like a mess. You have to be really careful about how those pieces fit together. So that, and then I doubled down on my confidence of like, hey, I know what a catchy hook sounds like. And then I just work with people who are great at the things that I'm not so great at. Yeah. And I think that's another thing is like, don't just work with people who are good at the things that you're weak at. Work with people who are great at the things that you're weak at. Because like, unless you're just like a music genius at a bunch of things, like you need all the help that you can get in your weak areas, you know, like don't just like make it okay. Like have that. Yeah.
That's awesome. So talk to us a little bit about in producing because to me, one of your big things that you didn't mention, well, I guess you kind of did, is your production ear. You have such a great production ear. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that kind of goes back to like having the ear for hooks. Like the drummer Dave Grohl, who's also the singer of Foo Fighters, right? I remember hearing in an interview I think back when he was in drumming for Nirvana, he said that when he like writes his drum parts, he thinks of them like as hooks. Like he's not just like playing, you know, just a regular beat. He's like, I want this drum beat to be a hook on its own. You know what I mean? And if you think about that for like, not that everything has to be like a featured hook, but it should at least be interesting enough on its own if it was like soloed. And I think that's a theory that I take in production. Like, I don't want there just to be, it doesn't mean that there can't just be like a simple thing in a track, but I at least want it to have a purpose. And so I think, I try and think carefully about that. But then on the flip side of that, like I've been noticing this trend that I overproduce tracks. So I'm trying to like step back from that a little bit. And like, sometimes I feel like I overcompensate and like will add too much stuff. But yeah, that's just something that it's more of like an internal struggle. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. How about now? One of the things that makes you very unique from most of our colleagues that are in this sync world and writing and producing their own music is that you record a lot of your own drums. Mm-hmm. I usually kind of discourage people from that because people mostly don't know how, and it takes there's such a learning curve on making that sound good. But I love that you're able to do it, and that's probably a big part of the fact that you were in a band for a while, and you know your stuff, and you studied drumming. You know, can you tell us the advantages of doing it that way. So like if I were somebody that recorded a lot of the drums using a virtual instrument, but if I wanted to layer on some percussive stuff to make it sound a little more human, how would you recommend I go about doing that?
You know, like I'm all about like sitting. Hold on, let me figure that out. So I'm with you on the, if you're going to be using virtual instruments, try to layer on something that sounds real. I do that a lot with like virtual strings. There's this weird little, I don't know if I can, hold on, there's this weird little thing that I found this like wood guitar pick. I don't know if you can, yeah, it's a wood guitar pick. So it's not like great for strumming, but I found that like if you take the edge of the pick on the string, you can't really hear, but if you put a mic, it basically just sounds like a bow on a string. It just like, it's a texture kind of thing. And so like, I'll layer that onto, I'll layer that onto my strings, and it just like creates this weird organic texture on top. So yeah, going back to the drum thing, it really depends on what the song is. But here, hold on one second. I'm gonna play something if it comes through. 1 second. There we go. Hold on, I'm looking for it. I'm looking. One second. Hold on. Not that one. This one? Oh, this one? Yeah, this one. Can you guys hear that one?
Oh, no, what have I done? Do I really care? Oh, no, you can do it again. You just can't get there. Oh, yeah.
So, did that come through? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, like, that one was like me just drumming on my desk. I just put a mic on my desk and just went like that. And like that was like the entire foundation. There's no real drums. And then I think like, I don't know, I've got like this slide, and I probably like, you know, like added another layer on top of it. And like my challenge for that was like no real drums, just like found percussion, like stuff that didn't even like make sense. And I think like all three, like that song's like, those songs are part of like a 3-song EP, and like that's what they all are. And one of those 3 songs on that EP is the one that got used on the AT&T commercial and on Shameless. And so if I think my point is like, don't limit yourself, or don't like discount like what you can do. Like, even though I can record drums, like I don't think those songs would have turned out well if I had, you know, just like laid down like a drum beat.
That is so interesting. I'm actually working on a song very similar to that. I'm totally going to steal that idea.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I've told you in a previous thing, but or previous discussion, but this goes totally in line with what I'm talking about. So I keep this by my computer, and it's just like this little teacup thing. Before I moved out to LA, I went to school for web design and graphic design. Just because I did the whole like stupid like, oh, I should have like a plan B kind of thing. And so like one of the classes that you had to take was like a a drawing class, and they sent the class to like this this like secondhand like antique store, and you're just supposed to like be drawing quick sketches of what you see in the store and like whatever. But I found like as I was walking around like looking at things, I was going around with my pencil and just like hitting things. Like I was like, I was looking for interesting things to draw, but I was like just hitting like whatever. And then I came across this thing sitting on the shelf, and it's just like, it just makes this like perfect little bell. And I got like so excited about it. And I was like trying to talk to my other, classmates. I was like, do you guys hear this? This is amazing. And nobody else cared because they're all like visual artists, right? And it was like right then I knew that like I didn't belong there. Like
Wrong field, man.
Wrong field. And so like I bought it and I keep it with me, and it's kind of my reminder of like that I belong.
And how do you? That is such a cool. It's like your totem from or token or whatever you call it. How do you record that? What do you do to record those little sounds? What mics and setup do you use?
Oh, honestly, like I have this like just SM7B or whatever these things are called. I just keep it nearby. I have way more mics than what I need. Honestly, like the only time that I need like more mics is when I'm recording drums. But I'm the type of person that like I don't like to get slowed down by like the technical stuff. So I just leave that mic like plugged in, ready to go at all times. And I find that like it doesn't really matter like what the mic is or what pre it's running through. I mean, I will like, if it's going to be a featured instrument, like if it's acoustic guitar or something and it's just gonna be like vocal acoustic guitar, I will like think for a minute about like the technical aspects of it. But really, like I'm banging on a desk, it's a tambourine. Like I would be surprised if you could actually record a tambourine wrong. Like show me a mic and pre combination that makes a tambourine sound bad. There isn't one. They all sound fine.
Hardest part is playing the tambourine.
Right. Yes, get that.
Hard instrument to play, man.
Yeah, and again, going back to Dave Grohl, and there's like other examples of this, but there's a YouTube video of Dave Grohl playing like a really crappy kid's toy drum set. Just like something that probably costs $70, and it sounds horrible. But when he sits down on it and plays, it sounds awesome. It's like, oh man, I need to get one of those. But it's not. If I sat down and played on it, it would sound horrible. Oh, and another example of this, I don't know if you guys know the drummer Matt Chamberlain, but he's like played on just so many hits, like Tori Amos and Fiona Apple, and he's on a bunch of like country stuff. He's just like the A-list session drummer guy. I got the opportunity once when I was co-writing with an artist. She actually she had a producer, and I got to be there, and I got there early. And Matt Chamberlain was going to be drumming on the songs, which is like a huge, it just blew my mind that I was writing a song that Matt Chamberlain was going to be playing drums on. So I got there early, and the engineer asked if I could like get sounds for Matt's drums. And when I sat down, I was like kind of like horrified because the drums sounded like crap. Honestly, like I couldn't believe how bad they sounded until Matt got there and he sat down and they sounded so cool. And so like, it really just, I feel like everything is so much about who's performing it and how well it's done. Because, the same thing goes for like Adele. Adele's got an amazing voice, and she would probably sound amazing through any mic, through any pre, and any, That's kind of. So I try not to get caught up on it too much.
What is the biggest thing that people like us that are getting into this business overlook or get hung up on?
I mean, at the very beginning, I think it's really easy to get hung up on all the things that you don't have, instead of focusing on what you do. And I've got a song that I can't remember if it had to be. I think it had to be done for like a really quick deadline, and there wasn't time to meet up with the person that I wanted to work with. And she ended up recording all of her. She recorded her vocals, several vocals, banjo, and guitar, acoustic guitar, on GarageBand on her laptop with this USB. I think it's called like a snowball or snow. It's basically like this round white mic on these three little legs, and it sits on a desktop.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And she recorded everything and just sent me the tracks in GarageBand, and the song turned out awesome. So, like, if that's all she had, like, you know, even I might look at that and be like, if I had to like record a song just using that USB mic and GarageBand, I might feel like, oh, that's a bit, that might not be enough. But it kind of gave me faith that you really can make something great on minimal gear. Yeah, so I think that's it. Don't get hung up on what you don't have. Just really double down on what you can do really well and focus on that.
That's amazing. So in your writing, how about, is there anything that you wish you could tell yourself 10, 20 years ago about writing?
Yeah. So I got to be part of this ASCAP, which is one of the U.S. Performing rights organizations. They have like this songwriters workshop where you apply and they invite like 14 writers to this group, and you meet like, I think it was twice a week for a month, and they give you assignments, and then they also bring in like these coaches, and it's ASCAP, so they have like, I think one year like Katy Perry was like a guest speaker for these like 14 songwriters, so it's like in a small room. It's pretty cool. But like the year I was there, they brought in like the co-writer and producer for Adele's, one of Adele's hits. It wasn't Someone Like You, but anyway, he had done a bunch of hits, and they also hook you up with like someone who's had a lot of success, and like they'll spend an hour with you, kind of like answering questions or coaching or whatever. And I got this songwriter who had a bunch of hits, and I'm forgetting her name right now, but I remember when she asked me, she's like, okay, what are you good at? And I said, well, I like to think that I'm good at a lot of things. You know, I think I've got a good ear for melody, and, you know, like I was really just not specific. And I just thought like, I had like produced some songs of my own, and I thought like, oh, I can pretty much do it all. And she's like, okay. And I think I had like a guitar progression or something like that I was working on, because that was like part of the thing. And she's like, okay, like show me some melody ideas. Like just come up with some hooks for this part that you've got. And I was like totally caught on the spot because I didn't have anything. And I just like, as soon as I tried some things, like she was like, no, here, try this. And she just improvised like 3 or 4 different melody hooks that were just amazing. And she's like, oh, you can have those if you want. Like, but right there, like I knew like I wasn't good at melody. Like she was good at melody. You know what I mean? And so I actually forget what your question is, but hopefully that answered it. Like that was like a moment where I was like, oh, like these things that I think that I'm like good at, I'm not really good at like all these things. Like I really need to figure out what are my strengths, because I knew I had some, but I can't just go around believing like I'm okay, or yeah.
So it sounds like if you were talking to yourself 10 years ago, you would be like, dude, get good at a couple things. Don't try to get good at everything. Would that be something?
Yeah. Or at least like take the time to like really figure out what you want to be great at.
Mm.
And like, I think this was the thing, like you've got like horrible, good, and great, and good doesn't really matter. You know, like if you split all of your abilities into those 2 categories, are you either like not good or great? Like, where is it going to be? you know, because you can't just like squeak into great. You have to be great. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that's what I would have, that's what's helped me is like, if I'm not great at something, then I ask myself, okay, is this a background part that isn't going to be featured, and can it just be like back there, and can I do it myself? And that's okay. But like I try to really aim for great on everything. And if I can't do it, then I like find somebody who can and make that happen.
That's badass. Does anybody have a question before I continue to throw his way? I could talk to Josh.
Yeah.
I love talking to Josh.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. Good to see you face to face for a change.
I know. Thanks again for your help. Tobias helped me out a lot with. I had this illegal song used in Norway, and
Yeah.
I had to translate the commercial to figure out who the company was that used it. And Tobias,
Sure, yeah.
I really appreciate
That
it.
I could help. Did you figure everything out with them? Like, did you get paid and everything?
Yeah,
Cool.
It ended up being an illegal usage. They forgot to get the license, and they ended up paying like $20,000 for what I think would have been a $2,000 license. So
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
Good for you. Hey, by the way, before I ask a question, so this looked familiar when you showed the SM7. Yeah.
You've got it at the same angle, right? It's just like right there.
I think, yeah, pretty much. So, Josh, you gave me a lot of tips before about, you know, production and gear, and I think the biggest point you made about the stuff I do is that I need to work on my lyrics, and I find it really challenging to make find my way as a songwriter in the sync area. Because when I started with this, like most of us with the Access course in 2017, that was for me, I kind of oriented myself on Kathy's style, because this is also what they're basically looking for, this very specific CDM style. And I just run the risk of sounding a little too generic doing that. And so I was wondering if, you know, what the progress was for you from writing songs purely as an artist to writing songs for sync briefs. You know, if there was something you really had to also develop an authenticity in that, or if it just came to you, or what was your story?
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I mean, I started out when I came to LA and like kind of was getting serious about songwriting. I first started out like thinking, oh, I want to write songs for other artists. I want to like, you know, try and get songs placed that way. And I didn't really like it. It was just, there wasn't enough structure. Like it seemed like you could write about anything, and it was difficult to tell like really. And then there's things like when you write for artists, like they tell you like, you know, you should really know like what's going on in the artist that you think that you're going to be pitching for in their personal life. Like if they just had like a breakup, then maybe you should write some breakup songs because it'll appeal to them. And it just felt like gross. Like I didn't want to be like playing those kind of politics. But then when I got into the sync thing, like they would say, oh, you want to write like really universal lyrics, nothing specific, which is the exact opposite of like, you know, writing for very specific for an artist. And so like I went this other way where I was just writing these like really universal kind of like bland lyrics, and I wasn't having a lot of success. A lot of my early syncs, they were just using the instrumentals of the songs. And so I found like just again through trial and error, because I've been doing this for about 9 years. So I've had a lot of failure. Like just like put it into perspective, like my first national commercial after 9 years just came last year. So that's 8 years worth of like some successes, but not really like hitting my goal. So don't think that what I'm saying is, you know, is easy or anything, or maybe it just took me longer to figure it out. Yeah, so I found like for this sync thing is like they're still using real artists' songs a lot of the times. You know, you'll still hear like Imagine Dragons on car commercials and stuff like that. So you have to write like I still feel like you have to write things that have like a real emotional authenticity. Like, yeah, and I think that's something that I thought like, oh, I'm going to write universal lyrics. So I'll just like I'll make sure that there's no like persons, places, or things in any of my lyrics, just like keep it nice and broad, and I won't really say anything specific so that like it can be used in a bunch of things. And I still do those things. Like I still like keep those things in mind, because if you do use nouns, like it can limit your sync potential. But I think you almost have to compensate even more. Like, okay, you're not going to use nouns, and you're gonna try and keep things broad, but double down like in another way that makes it like almost compensate for that. And like for instance, in those upsided songs, like one that got the AT&T placement or something like that. Like, let me hold on. I'm just gonna like see if I can find it really quick. One second. One second. All right. So there's this like one line in here that says, "Jump the line, shuffle on the waffle, I'm feeling fine." Like, I don't know what that means, but as soon as like you hear like shuffle on the waffle, like that's not like something that you're just gonna ignore and be like, ho hum, this person's like not getting my attention. Like, and I didn't come up with that line. Yeah, but I think like those kind of things, like, and there's other people's songs. There's a lot of great songwriters out there, but I think like have lyrics that are like undeniably interesting. Like that's where I'm at. Like, if again, like kind of going on that scale of like, is this like bad or is this great? Like if every line falls into that great, like that you could just take one line out and send it to a friend and they're like, oh man, that one line is great. If you can do that to every single one, then like I feel like you've got something, and it's not easy. Like it's a lot of rewriting. Like I would say like on average, my songs, we rewrite the lyrics at least 3 times. Like we'll have our main writing session and then we'll like go back and forth. And yeah, that song that got the Showtime placement, I did that with Brittany Fonts, and we rewrote the chorus 5 times. Like after the final lyrics, like the final vocals were already recorded and it was like pretty much ready to go. Like we redid the vocals 5 times with 5 different sets of lyrics until we like really felt like we got it saying something great, like that it really like flowed in the right way.
So you like exchanged words or phrases, or you redid the entire thing?
We re-recorded, like we rewrote the lyrics 5 times, and for each one she recorded a new vocal.
Okay.
And we put it in the mix, and we were like, we sat on it for a couple days, and we're like, it's still not hitting me. Like, let's go back and rewrite those lyrics. And I think maybe some of those we might have like changed the melody a little bit but the point is that like we didn't just like kind of settle for okay. Like we knew that we wanted something great. Yeah. But I recently posted on my Facebook one thing that really changed my whole worldview about lyrics is there's a lady named Susan Koch. It's got a weird last name. It's K-O-C. And I did like a songwriting workshop with her, and she's like super lyric focused, and she is like just a lyric surgeon wizard. Like in like one sentence, she'll like just cut your entire just shred your lyrics and just be like, she'll just like ask a question and be like, I don't know. It's been years since I've worked with her, but I just remember like she just asked one question about my lyrics, and I was just like, oh yeah, these are not great. And so like you go back and rewrite it and bring it in the next week, and maybe it's a little bit better. But she's one of those people that Yeah, she's like a psychiatrist. Like every session you have with you have like this breakthrough of like, oh, this is who I am. This is what's wrong with everything. Like, and then you go and work on it. And yeah, I don't know many
Sounds
people.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
Sounds
many people who do that with
Do
lyrics.
you know if she? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you know if she does these workshops online, or is that just in person in LA?
No, she does. I've never done a Skype one, but I know that she does Skype sessions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I saw your post, but I thought it was only like in person in LA happening. What she was advertising.
That's the one that I did. I drove to her place and there was like 5 or 6 people, but she does she does Skype sessions, which I really think would be just as valuable, because really, like, when I went there, she made, like, you had to print out like 5 copies of your lyrics and you hand them to everybody in the group, and then but you're not only getting critique from her but other people, but really like the main critique, the value comes from her, and she's good at it.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Josh, thank you so much. We're got to kind of wrap it up here. Couple takeaways that I got from this, if you don't mind me saying, is, and I'm sure you guys got a lot of things out of this as well. I feel like we could talk to you for hours and hours and hours, but I'm trying to be very sensitive to everybody's time and make sure that people that watch this on the replay aren't inundated too much. But it sounds a lot like, I love the fact that you said that you admitted and were vulnerable enough to say, hey, this took me a while to figure out. I had to work at this and get good at it. And I finally hit some of my big strides just this year. That's awesome. And it's so encouraging to me. And I think a lot of us that, this isn't an overnight thing. This is a hard business to be in. It's kind of a ridiculous business to be in a lot of ways. I love the fact that you think outside the box with your instrumentation, your percussion, and you do the things that you're strong, and you don't try to worry about all the elements that you're not necessarily, that aren't your strengths. I love those things, and those are the biggest takeaways I got out of this. Does anybody want to say any final thing? Any final questions?
Just thanks for answering all the questions I didn't know I had.
Awesome.
Like all that producer multiple website stuff. Yes.
Oh,
I'm just starting on the fake end of that, getting to the
nice. You got to fake it till you make it, right?
What did you say, Mikey?
I was just gonna say, can we agree Josh is dreamy? Can we just?
Oh, Mike!
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's going good.
Yeah, nice. What is that? Is that an organ over there? The keyboard?
Yeah, I got it. It's a Wurlitzer. I got this on the side of the road.
No.
Yes, it works perfectly. Like, it was a family, like I got it like 6 years ago, and I was like, is there something wrong with it? And they were like, no, we just took in our dad, and like we're clearing out stuff from his house, and we don't want it.
Dude.
Yeah.
Nice. So it's good to see your face.
Good seeing your face.
Guys, it's been so fun.
Zions, thank you so much for doing this, and thank you, Josh. Hi, it's Bev here. This is one of the best Q&As I've heard since I started. I'm serious; it's beyond. Thank you so much. Just really quickly, I have a ton of questions, but what do you think about Robin Fredericks and her teaching methods?
Yeah, I was with Taxi for a while, and I remember watching some of her Taxi. They do like a Taxi TV, and I think I might even have her book. It's been a while. I don't remember her like really like. I feel like maybe when I got turned on to her, I kind of already knew what the stuff that she was teaching, but I feel like a lot of the stuff that she teaches would be really good for beginners, like just getting into sync. Yeah, because I know that she like really pushes the being very aware of nouns in your song. You're going to do sync, no person, places, or things, or like if you talk about nighttime in your song, like it can't be used in a daytime scene if you're going to sync it. She definitely knows what she's talking about. I just don't know the breadth of everything that she teaches, but I think she's legit.
Yeah, I think she is, and she's at you're giving a course right now. I think it's really reasonable too. So I just might take it. You know, I think everything you can take is good. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Thank-
took that class,
thank you.
and it's really good. It's only like 90. I think it was like super cheap, like $70.
Yeah.
And you can just do it for the entire time. She does some like Zoom sessions too, so you can like submit songs, and she'll critique.
Oh, thanks, Mikey. Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much. Josh, huge thanks to you. We would love to have you come back again sometime if you're open to it. Yeah, you inspire us all. So thank you for everything you're doing.
Absolutely. I love talking about it because, again, like a lot of these thoughts that I was spewing today are just like in my head. I'm just like having these conversations with myself. So yeah, I like talking to other people.
Do you want to make a plug for where we can find you or connect with you?
I mean, I don't really, for you guys, I'm not plugging anything, but I mean, 3 Theory Music, the number 3, you can kind of go and see like what that looks like, what that whole thing looks like. You can see kind of like how it's got the roster of artists, and then they've got, every artist has like a playlist, so you can go and listen to the songs, and pretty much every song, I'm pretty sure every song on there I've produced and at least been a co-writer on. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
We'll check it.
Awesome.
All right. Have a good day, everybody.